Good morning, everybody. Hello, good day. Welcome to our webinar. We're talking about AI today and how AI is affecting and can enhance your online marketing and also your e-commerce. And these are two very on trend topics at the moment. They're getting a lot of traction, a lot of interest across the world in terms of marketing and in terms of e-commerce. So we're really excited about that, and it's great to be here today. Let's do some quick introductions. I am delighted to be joined by Matthew. Matthew Waldron is the Trade Commissioner for the Canadian Consulate General. He's based actually in Miami, which is interesting because I'll let him explain a bit about that. But it's really also interesting to have Matthew there. And, it's such an innovative place. He gets a lot of new ideas, new information there for Canadian exporters and to help Canadian companies into the United States. So it's really great to have him there as well. Eric Bourget is the CEO and founder of Half Serious, which is based in Montreal, a really innovative company that uses AI, that comes out of the gaming industry, as so many of them do. But Eric is ill today and will not be joining us. But we have had lots of discussions and we're bringing some of Eric's knowledge with us. So unfortunately, Eric is not going to be on the webinar today, and we wish him a speedy recovery. And then myself, my name is Susanna, and I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. IBT Online is a private company, so we have nothing to do with the Canadian Consulate General at all. We're a private company. We're actually a U.S. company. We have a Canadian subsidiary, also based in Montreal, and our U.S. Parent company is based in Florida as well. And we're a digital marketing company. So what does that mean? That means that we build websites. We do lots of e-commerce for our clients, and we do digital marketing. And we're really known for, our ability to work across different markets, our international scope, and also our focus on sort of the mid-cap world. And as people as digital marketeers, we're very quickly involved with AI. AI and the internet are really closely bound up. I mean, Google search engines are all about AI. Amazon, leverages AI. So digital marketing is very impacted on it, and you'll find that digital marketeers are using AI a lot. So that's why we wanted to talk about AI and e-commerce today. The other thing about IBT Online is, although we have a Canadian subsidiary, we are also a strategic partner for the U.S. commercial service, particularly with regards to e-commerce. So we have signed a strategic partnership in 2024 for e-commerce with the U.S. commercial service, and that's lots of fun. gets us around, and it's interesting as well because we've designed a series of programs called Online Global Programs to help companies and exporters and companies who want to build websites, do e-commerce, do digital marketing, that align themselves very much towards the environment today. Right, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get on to our agenda. We thought we would start off by Matthew explaining a little bit more about the Canadian Consulate General and what I've called like the helping hand of the CCG, and where you can get information, where you can get assistance as a Canadian company. After that, I'm going to be talking just briefly sort of big picture stuff about the digital and the AI landscape today. So who are the big players? What is it all about? And in particular, what does that mean for the internet? Then we'll dive into sort of the e-commerce side of it, and in particular show you some aspects of AI that are used predominantly in e-commerce and in digital marketing. We wanted to leave you with some things to take away, like a good old-fashioned party bag after the event. So there's a section at the end with some sort of takeaways, some thoughts, some easy wins if you're looking particularly at the international markets, and some time for Q&A if you have a moment then to spend some time with us. So we're delighted that you joined us today. We know that you're all busy folks. We know that you're all running your companies, and time is precious. So we're delighted that you would join us today, and we would say, take the time now. You've carved out that moment in the day take the time to ask the questions that you never have time to ask about AI, about e-commerce, and so on. So with that, let's turn over to Matthew and talk a little bit about the Canadian Consulate General, please. Matthew.
Gotta mute the microphone, but hey, folks, how are you? I'm Matt Waldron. I'm the Trade Commissioner for the Consulate General of Canada's Trade Commissioner Service Network here in Miami. As you may know, we exist anywhere there's a consular presence for Canada around the world. You have the Trade Commissioner Service sorted all the way around it. More than 8 offices in the United States to move around, as well as some offices covering multiple smaller countries as we get around the world. Over 126 places, or 164, sorry, places to help you out going forward. That's what we call our network. Me being in Miami, if you're a Jimmy Buffett fan, you have a cousin in Miami. You have somebody there to answer your questions, put you in front of some soft landing things, help make B2B connections, educate you on what's going on and develop. We've been doing this for 125 years. Canada has realized that exports, especially SME growth, are the core of our industry, core of our tax base, core of everything that you want to say, and we move a lot of people through it. It's wonderful because your tax dollar actually grows into money back in these kind of programs. And so we've got 6 offices across Canada handling the provinces, with the Atlantic Canada Alliance on one side, and a few other groupings as the rest that you go through. So our first point, as you'll see on the next slide, is to connect you with your own provincial office to find out what's going on worldwide and how it might help you, and then connect you with the posts around the world via them to match up your needs to what's going on the other side. So that'll let you gain market insight, find new opportunities, connect with key contacts, find out where our business development programs are going on, and everything else. The idea there is to get you into new markets. Again, more export, good for everyone. So that's what we do. And we help take the risk out of it. We help, I jokingly say, we take the scary out of it. You've got somebody there who can walk you through, make sure you're not jumping in to bed 2 feet first with somebody who's a known problem, and help you move things along. So next slide talks a little bit, here we go, about the CAN export program. Now, there's very few things where there's direct money available, but if you fill out the forms here and work on what your forward marketing and development plan is going to be, you can get back money, and the amounts below, but up to 75,000 or 50,000, depending on the rotation of the quarter, how much is there, out of your total spend, up to 50% of what you're putting out there back as far as it goes. Now, that's different for R&D partnerships, associations, and SMEs. And if you've got questions about that, we can cut through that later. But at this point, it's a great way to double your marketing budget as you outreach for everything from having things translated, updating for various precision items in future markets, just like we'll be talking about here, just like we've talked about in our past pieces. And, that's one of the main things. On the next slide, we talk a little bit about that and what it goes through. And it's just kind of like I said, market intelligence, legal and business advice, anything that you need to get in there ahead of time is very solid. Just about anybody who is a registered Canadian company looking to get into those markets with plans to be in there can apply and get that money. Next slide, please. In addition, we have programs like Canadian Technology Accelerators, which tend to focus on our key sectors, things around life sciences, clean tech, information technology, and more. What those are is basically high-speed, high-priority groups that get introduced in more than one post at one time, with developed consultants in our own offices and everything, doing a combination of education, insertion into these markets and B2B developments. Keep an eye out for those when they pass into yours. They are a good bit of a time connection piece, but if you're developing to your next launch or next level, absolutely invaluable if you can get involved in one. Next slide. And finally, this is us as a whole. You may not have thought you've heard of the TCS, but if you've seen any of these groups as you've gone through Canada or worked with them on the other side, that basically is working in concert with us to develop things coming out of the same pot of money. We're just the business development arm on on site. I don't know if we've got another slide after this, but if we do, here is the contact information. I mentioned the first thing we want to do is get you in touch with your regional office. So myself and the regional office will work together to help target your needs, get you in front of the right people, and get you benefiting from the TCS and its global network as fast as possible. All the contact information is there. Take a screenshot, take a clip, whatever you need to do, or just write me back. My information should be coming right up. Next.
I think that's it. I think that's
That's
it.
all. Okay, folks.
Yeah,
If you have any questions, you can reply to me out of this. You can look up your local officers if you already know them. Any questions we got, we're happy to hear on the outside of this or even inside the chat on here. Thank you very much.
thank you, Matthew. And Matthew's contact and email, our details are on the first slide and on the last slide as well when we're looking at questions. And I forgot to mention, you will all receive a recording of this webinar in your inboxes tomorrow. And if anyone wants the slide deck, shoot me an email and I'll send you a PDF version of the slide deck. So I was going to now start off with sort of a big landscape picture of what is the AI situation at the moment and what is the digital situation at the moment. As you know, this is very much in our corporate wheelhouse, and what we're seeing really throughout 2023, 2024, and growing are these big trends in the online world, and they really come down to sort of massive trends globally, more and more into AI, greater and greater reliance on e-commerce and demand for e-commerce, not just B2C but B2B, and a sort of more and more online, but at the same time a desire to have greater personalization and a greater sense of community. So that personalization starts to get really important when you're looking at e-commerce. The rise and continued growth of social commerce, social selling. I believe for Black Friday, for example, TikTok was selling, and it had more social selling than a lot of the retail side. So social selling is a big thing. And then this whole notion of data privacy and compliance and security is also fundamental to it. There's lots of those things that I'm not going to be talking about. We're really going to be focusing in on the AI and the e-commerce today. But just to give you some sort of facts and figures at the moment, something like 70% of the global population has an iPhone or has an internet-enabled telephone, which means that you can walk around with the internet all the time. You can walk around with it, and there it is. And for most markets in the world, in fact, people access the internet via their telephones first rather than their desktops. Important to know when you're looking at new markets. 67, nearly 70% of the world's population use the internet, and almost the same amount are on social media. And the thing that floors me is that 5.5 billion people that we talked about, 70% of the population using the internet, the average time spent for 5.5 billion people, nearly 7 hours a day. So 5.5 billion people, 7 hours a day. Amazing. And as Canadians, we think we're all on time a lot as well. But in fact, Canada is actually a little bit behind the curve if you look at some of the big trends. I talked about social media. If this chart just shows lots of different countries, the white band is the worldwide average. The red arrow is Canada. You see how far it is to the right. And that's why I think it's really important to understand, especially if you're looking at markets outside Canada, if you're looking at going into the US or going into other markets, non-Canadian markets, if you're looking to export, it's really important to understand that the internet is actually more important as an export market than in your domestic market. It's more important to get the internet and your digital assets correct for your export markets than for your domestic market. The same thing really actually in e-commerce. I know when I'm in Toronto, I feel like I'm shopping online all the time. But again, Canada is quite far to the right. of the worldwide average. Again, this slide here, the white band is the worldwide average, the red arrow Canada. You've got places, especially things like the Southeast Asian markets, Latin American markets, who are really very, very far ahead in terms of e-commerce. Now the numbers there are B2C. And it's a little bit harder to get the B2B numbers, but if we do look at the B2B numbers, they're about 3 times the size of the B2B2C market. And really, the pandemic just had a huge shift over, and it was a big trend going that way. Anyway, the COVID amplified that trend, and we're now seeing really an immense sort of demand that B2B companies have an online presence and online selling presence. That doesn't mean to say that you have to have a full e-commerce enabled website, but you have, more and more companies want their B2B suppliers or their other companies to have some form of e-commerce enablement, some form of interactiveness on their websites. We'll talk about how that's done and what e-commerce and what AI can do for you on that. That's sort of the digital side. That's the sort of the internet side. I want to talk now just briefly some numbers, some stats, just to give you some background on AI. So basically AI expenditure. I mean, this is just another sort of graph that just shows you sort of the USA is just that's listed in $680 billion. That was in 2022. That was the latest numbers that I could find for all of those countries. But it's just a phenomenal number, and it's really expanded since, obviously. Now, artificial intelligence, broadly speaking, very broadly speaking, it refers basically to machines or software which is designed to mimic human intelligence. So these are systems that learn from experience. They adapt to new inputs. They perform tasks that typically require some form of human intelligence. And there's lots of different types for companies, particularly for e-commerce. If I look now at sort of the impact across different industries, and again, this is a very jumbled up slide. It's just massive, way too much information on it. But I think what's interesting for you, and you will get the slide deck and the recording if you want to dive into this, is just where it's really impacting things, where AI is impacting things on industry. And basically most sort of analysts and observers are seeing the highest impact so far has been on things like industry automation, and then things like for the banking industry, for the insurance industry. It's supposed to have very beneficial, it could have very beneficial impacts for the health and public sector services, and probably have the least impact, it's thought, on things like natural resources, the chemicals industry, even also consumer goods and service sectors. Although that's, I think the latter is debatable. What about in B2B then? Let's dive into that for a second. If we're looking at B2B, most B2B companies latched on to AI very quickly in terms of procurement analysis and procurement and reporting, things like that. That was an easy win, as it were. Automation and manual procurement people, things like that, was something that could easily done on that. And then that whole AI-driven optimization of the purchasing decisions also, so that it's basically stock level and inventory controls for that. So it's really an analysis of your data, analysis of the logistics and inventory. Those are some of the first early adopters. If I dig down a little bit further again, and again, these are just sort of big picture numbers here, but you can see that it's really affected some sectors faster, stronger than other sectors, in particular healthcare, education, financial services, manufacturing, and the entertainment sectors. For that, so that can give you some indication of that. And I think what's interesting is just to see the slope of that graph going from sort of 2017, where there was a very low level of adoption, to this sort of absolute increase in the amount of adoption per annum. And the last slide, just sort of saying sort of where we are on all of this is, again, sort of what we call an AI, sort of the ecosystem for AI and how that works. So as we said, artificial intelligence as a whole is supposed to be sort of mimicking human intelligence. There are different types of it. Some of the core technologies for AI, for e-commerce in particular, you would have like machine learning algorithms that analyze data and data patterns, and then they make predictions or decisions. They don't actually explicitly program each scenario, but they have like a sort of a projected scenario like that. Machine learning that powers recommendation engines, all those things you get on when you go onto Amazon, for example, dynamic pricing, demand forecasting. So that would be under machine learning. Then natural language processing as well. Again, natural language and NLPs. They enable computers to understand and interpret and respond to human language. In e-commerce, that's chatbots, that's customer support interactions, sentiments, and any kind of reactions you get from customers, that you would have in your chatbots. And finally, computer vision, which allows machines to see, in brackets, in quotation marks, and process visual information. That's looking in particular in visual searches, finding products based on uploaded images, and quality control, like identifying defects in products, for example. I'll get back to all of those different types later in the discussion when we're looking at more e-commerce examples. So just sort of like in sort of like conclusion, when we look at sort of the rise of AI, today's challenge, certainly from a digital point of view, is how to integrate AI into the marketing processes, marketing being sales and marketing together, and aligning how you are on your website and in your online presence with AI. So that's the key at the moment. Digital marketing and internet and so on has been using AI, forms of AI, since its creation. AI is what powers search engine optimization, social media marketing, all those classic, the classic features of digital marketing. Influencer marketing, all of that is driven by AI, and the software tools that integrate AI. What's happened since ChatGPT is these large language models, like ChatGPT and others, Anthropic and so on, are absolutely transformative. They have shifted the goalposts completely, at least on the digital marketing side of the world. So that's what I mean also when you're talking about aligning your online presence with smart AI. And to quote someone from the AI Marketing Institute, today's AI is the dumbest AI that you'll ever have. It's only getting better. It's only getting more powerful. So scary stuff. I thought I'd finish this particular part of the discussion really just with a reminder. I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea where we're going with AI. I have ideas, but I have no credibility on it. A lot of people are still saying, is it something that is it all a bubble? I think there are possibly share prices which might be a bubble, but AI certainly for us and what we're seeing is certainly very real. It has enormous impact on consumer behavior, on B2B behavior, and is driving that internet. And if you remember that number that I said in the beginning, 5.5 billion people using the internet for nearly 7 hours a day, that is driven by AI. So, what they're doing on the internet, how they're reacting on the internet, and more and more what they're seeing on the internet is driven by AI. So from our point of view, a very real thing to have. Let's have a quick poll. Let's ask you guys So, are you already integrating AI? Do you have AI into your everyday business? Are you still thinking about it, or are you testing it out? Only some team members are allowed to have it, only in some areas of your business, or are you like, no, that's not even on our discussion at the moment. We're way behind the curve. Just to give you a little bit of feedback, some of you are selectively looking at it, and but only on some team members. Very, very few of you are across all tasks and all teams involved. Um, and some of you are still thinking about it. That's great to have. Thank you very much for that. Thanks for participating in our poll. Let's talk about e-commerce now, and how e-commerce and AI meld together, and how you can use AI to really, really boost your e-commerce practice. The core of your e-commerce, there are certain sort of must-haves. And obviously, one of the core things that you must have is a seriously good website. And a website, it doesn't have to be, it's not about the image so much. That's the outside, or the language. That's the outside veneer. It's how it's produced. It's how it's built. It's the correct domain name. It's how it's hosted. Which CMS you've used, all of those things come into it. So I said the language on the outside, whether it's English or French or whatever it is, that's like just the coding, like a piece of wallpaper. It's really a three-dimensional aspect, really. A website, think of it as a three-dimensional thing. So you have to get those right. And for e-commerce, it's even more important to be relevant to that local buyer. It takes a lot of trust to buy something online. You can't have any step wrong, as it were. So everything from certainly on the e-commerce side, relevant to that local buyer. So pricing, tax, discounts, payment methods, how people are paying, what they're used to, shipping and order fulfillment, compliance and regulations. Again, all of those have to be absolutely seamless and easy to understand for your client, so that the client, whether it's a B2B or B2C, they see that and they say, that's I trust this. This is not gonna I'm gonna buy something online. I'm gonna put my card information, my personal information online, and I'm gonna receive something. I believe this, and it has to be absolutely faultless in order to do that. I wanted to show you a couple of examples of different types of really motivations for e-commerce websites. So you can have a product which is sold on Amazon or in Walmart or wherever, but you might still need your own website in order to build brand awareness. After all, brand is the only thing stopping you from price erosion. So it's important to have, a place, even if you're, on Walmart or whatever. It's important that your brand stands alone, and that you guard that brand, and that brand is a strong, visual, coherent structure, and equally that you use that then through social media, growing brand awareness, growing through social media marketing and all of that. That, again, that's up to you to do. That's up to you as the owner of your business, to make sure that you're on brand all the time and that it's consistent. So as I said, even if you're being sold, if your route to market really, 90% of your sales are through Amazon or whatever, make sure that your brand exists on its own 2 feet as well. Even if you don't sell that much off your e-commerce website, it will help the sales elsewhere, and make sure that you have a better pricing ability on those marketplaces, on those big marketplaces like Amazon or Walmart or whatever. Another reason for a motivation, really, for e-commerce websites, is something we see a lot, is when you have e-commerce websites that support local partners. So here, your local, you keep control of it, and you have all the payment gateways and everything else, but your local partner is the one who is actually doing the fulfillment side. So that's an interesting way of looking an e-commerce enablement. And again, this is B2B and B2C in this particular example. Another very similar example is supporting your global distributor networks. And again, this is maintaining your brand identity. You drive the marketing, you drive the leads, but your distributor does the fulfillment, so that your e-commerce website goes all the way down to, you select the products, you put it into a cart, everything's all together. You can even do a payment, but the actual delivery is from your distributor. You're generating leads to that in-market partner, to that feet on the ground partner that you have, who can actually do the fulfillment part and possibly the payment part. Another example I wanted to give you is a B2B company, a B2B client of ours. And here, this is an example of a company who says, we have so many products. And that's why I've circled out, I think they have like 78 pages of product after product, so 50 products per page, and there's 78 pages of it. So it's a massive thing. And what you can do is, enabling your B2B buyers, to select and put things into and say, okay, how do I, I'd like to buy these. And the point about that is that you have now very sophisticated filtering systems. And again, using AI tools, you can implement very sophisticated filtering systems, so that even when you've got like hundreds of products, your client can easily find what they need through the filtering systems. So that's a good example of that. And the last one, really just as an additional sort of B2B, again, this ends not with a payment gateway and fulfillment, but it ends with a request a quote. So again, you're enabling your B2B client to select the products they want, put them into a cart, and then say, now how much would that cost? So it ends with what we call a sales qualified lead, or a market qualified lead, an MQL or an SQL, for the company. It ends with a request a quote. But that is basically an e-commerce enablement. That is an e-commerce website. It doesn't have a Stripe payment at the end, or a Visa card to put in, but it ends with a request a quote. And that allows your salesman to pick up the phone and say, thank you very much for putting in those orders. A couple of things we'd like to talk to you about, and make sure that you got the right ones that you got. That's a sales qualified lead from your e-commerce website. Some of the must-haves, obviously we've talked about your website. We've talked about the e-commerce enablement of that website. But I wanted to put your attention as well to some of the platforms and plugins. Sometimes clients will come to us and they have an existing setup, and sometimes it's not the right setup for where they've grown to. So we always really, when someone wants to start that e-commerce journey, it's really, really important to try and project yourself in the future and say, what do I need in 2, 3, 4 years' time? What will my company need? Because once you start down one platform, it's very hard then to switch to another. The two largest are WooCommerce, which has about a 45% world market share, and Shopify, a great Canadian company, Shopify, which has about a 15% market share. They're very different, and they're very different uses. Magento is another one, Monster, there's lots of them. WooCommerce and Shopify, the two that most people would know. You need to figure out the scalability. You need to figure out your own resources, and then figure out which are the best platforms for you. And really, it's worth taking the time to figure this out before you launch yourself on this journey, if you're just starting out on e-commerce, because it's very hard to change course once you've gone that. I want to just add again this sort of notion of online compliance. Here I've just given the example of GDPR, but really it's worth having a look at. This is, again, a major trend, and sort of a tidal wave coming our way. So again, make sure that you have online compliance necessary and security. Just to give you an example, if you do not have your correct SSL certificate on your website, someone from Europe who looks at your website will see a large yellow flashing caution sign next to your brand that says this website is not secure. That's not something you want to have next to your company brand. So really do make sure that it's a good one for you. Now let's dive into this whole e-commerce digital marketing with AI and what that means. So I talked earlier about the different types of AI for e-commerce, and here you have them really, the sort of machine learning, the NLPs, and the computer vision. Those are the sort of the four big ones, and the those are sort of the three types of AI that most people would use in e-commerce. People tend to forget about the computer vision side, but it's very important, especially for B2B and especially for anything in advanced manufacturing. But also increasingly for markets where people search through imagery rather than through words. So if you're ever looking for something, you say, I can't find it, and then you go to images, that is also generated from CVAIs. E-commerce is a very competitive place, and it's hard to always stay on top of it. It's competitive really because it's so driven by one experience with Amazon. If I can order something in the late afternoon and the next morning it's on my doorstep, I kind of get used to that. So the B2C of e-commerce drives the experience expectations of all the other e-commerce functions. So even your B2B e-commerce is like, well, why can't I get that tomorrow? And then e-commerce also means that there's a lot of price visibility, and that's also a scary thing, and means it's very competitive. So both the pricing is difficult and the experience is difficult. So it's rapid shipping, it's a huge selection, these recommendation systems that you have. AI can really help some of that. Used correctly, AI can really help you gain better customer experience and that whole notion of personalization through AI. It can also obviously help you through operational efficiency. Remember that notion of stock taking and logistics that we talked about earlier, which is one of the first things that were affected by AI. And that allows you to stay much more competitive. If I look at some of the practical applications, now particularly for exporters, if you're an exporter and if you're a Canadian company and you're looking to go into Mexico or Japan or even the USA, there's some really great things that you can use AI for. AI today there are systems and software that use AI to help you with SEO, with search engine optimization. It'll improve your search engine optimization ranking, your search engine ranking, and even allows you to distinguish better keywords. And that's something that will help your organic search over time. So, softwares like, SEMrush or SEMrush, for example, really helps you distinguish better keywords and SEO strategies. You can create content with AI. And a lot's been said about this already, and the hallucinogenics and hallucinations of ChatGPT are well known. But you can generate really high quality content with AI. Obviously, it has to be edited several times, and it can be quite a laborious thing. You have to create first an agent, as it were, in order to create valuable, relevant content. And with AI, you can also automate the updates of the content. So you're no longer going to have on your website, the news dating from 2012 or something. It'll automatically update it. On the RSS feeds that you can have will update that as well. Also, it allows you to identify your target markets, and we'll talk about this and give you some examples of that. Not just through the analytics, but also through predictive analysis. Obviously, translation is a major thing, and there's lots of different translation apps these days, all working on AI. Probably the one that's most recognized, and it's used also by ChatGPT, is one called DeepL, and that's probably the top of the market at the moment. It allows you then also to personalize the marketing. Remember, we talked about that whole personalization part, and allows you to have real-time analytics, and with the analytics, good decision making. Before I give you some examples on things, I think it's important to talk about guardrails. One of the points about AI are, I personally I'm not particularly for a lot of legislation and control and regulation on it, but nevertheless, it's up to each corporation to make sure that there is a responsible and ethical use of AI. And that was really up at the top senior management to get right. A couple of tips on best practice here, actually setting up a little committee and making someone accountable for ethical and regulatory compliance, making it absolutely clear and transparent also when AI is used, how it's used, where it's used, and then testing it a lot and always having human oversight. It's really important. I think this whole notion of learning about AI and training AI is absolutely essential, and it's something that companies need to be aware of. And I think if not, you will get a very rocky start in your company with AI. A quick question just before we talk about some examples of AI in marketing and show you how they work. If you would like to learn more about e-commerce, about what we do in e-commerce, about any of our programs, about the digital marketing side, anything like that, let us know. And we're happy to reach out or send you an email or point you in the direction for some further research on that. And again, thank you very much for the responses. It's very kind. Social media marketing is all about, it's really all about not spamming. It's about reaching the right person, your right buyer persona at the right time with the right message. And AI allows you, through the data, to find that person and engage with that person and follow that person and see exactly what they want. So it allows you to pinpoint your social media marketing so that you're no longer, the last thing you want to do is spam. What you want to do is be as concentrated and focused and relevant as possible to your prospective buyer. If I look at that for international markets, it's all about becoming local and becoming relevant to the local market. So again, putting your buyer persona at the center of it to build a brand awareness. And AI allows you to do that by data analytics and by the fine tuning and ability to reach out to these people. I'll give you an example now of some of the social listening and the online tools that you can get on this. So these online marketing tools that you have, there are different types. There's sort of, I've broken them now into sort of six sort of silos, as it were. One about sort of brand health and so on, industry insights. All of these things you can get through various AI tools on today's market. These are what are called social listening tools that use AI to scan the web everywhere in all different markets, and therefore that allows you to create a really unique online brand experience. That creating content, for example, that speaks really directly for that. Here's an example of social listening. So here the graph shows you Facebook, I think Facebook clicks on a daily basis for one of our clients, and we were sort of stuck at around the sort of 200 level and just could not sort of get above that. And we were trying to figure out what it is. And then, we start asking these questions, okay, what about a video? Should we include a video on the homepage? What would the impact be of that video? What type of video, and so on? The data points that we then get back are the size of the video, what resonates in that market, what other people doing in that market, what is successful in that market. All of this is in the matter of sort of like, an hour, the resolution time, the response time. And we said, okay, the data came back and said, yes, this seems to be working for competitors. It seems to be doing a good job. Other industries are doing it as well. The target market looks very receptive to these types of videos and this size of video. So, the return on investment then seemed worthwhile. And indeed, within a day of putting the video on, our engagement level sort of went up by a factor of 4. So that's just sort of an example of using an AI tool of saying, okay, here's a question, give me the data points, and then I do the reaction of it. It's also a question of like continuous listening over long periods of time, which allow you to understand where your brand is compared to competitors, compared to what your clients are thinking, where they are as well, which platforms they're on, how they're interacting with it, and all of that, so that you can really hone down and then personalize things. So it's a very powerful tool, measuring your brand's engagement across social media platforms in pretty well near real time. So, like a typical question that we would ask is what is our brand engagement across these various platforms, across social media platforms? And you get all this analysis of thousands and thousands of data points across Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these different platforms, and then gain a competitive ranking of your brand's performance. And the immediate feedback loop helps you adjust your content strategy and optimize your posts and make sure that you're relevant and staying on track, staying to hear what your clients are interested in, and making sure you're really relevant for them. And again, pretty well near real-time reflection on this. Brands also have something called a voice. It's the size of where it is on the internet. And again, this is important to see where that voice is, and is it in the right place? Are people perceiving my brand the way I want it to be perceived, for the function that I want it to see? And so you would ask a question such as, where is my brand positioned versus my top 7 competitors in that market? And again, looking at sort of all these thousands of data points that the AI can give you back in pretty well real time, and that'll allow you to see where you are ranked according to your competitors in any one particular market. So again, a really crucial insight here to help you shape your marketing strategy. Tracking ROI gets really important as well. And here I've given you an example from one of our clients. By the way, that would be public information only, so it's nothing confidential for the client. And just looking at their live dashboards, again, all this information driven by AI allows you then to take stock of where you are, what you want to do, and design correct marketing projects that resonate with your prospective buyers and is relevant to your prospective buyers. And the last example I want to give is about managing distributors through AI. It's both about supporting distributors and monitoring them. So supporting them through, for example, a web portal where you can give them all the information they need, but then you can monitor them, and you can monitor them on real time. What is not just what their sales are, but what are they doing online? How have they reposted? Are they active? Anything like that you can monitor and look at And that allows you then to evaluate your distributors more effectively. So that if one says, well, sales are down, but that's because of the market, you can say, well, yeah, but I also note that you're really slow on, you have not done what the others have done. So all of those things are driven by AI, the monitoring of it, analysis of it, and that listening aspect of AI. Some easy wins, some takeaways, and things, and I guess some digital must-haves we would start with, and just really encourage you all to look at your digital assets and say, are they fit for purpose? We're near the end of 2024. Are they fit for purpose in today's world? Do they incorporate AI? Are they mobile enabled? Do they have the right imagery? Am I using the right tools to really harness and optimize my websites and my digital assets? And that could be your LinkedIn for your company or for your online presence, all of it. If you're looking at internationally, there's some clear, easy wins as well. One of them is, make sure that your URLs, that you own them, don't give them to your international reps. And I always think it's important to showcase that you can operate internationally, even if you could say made in Canada, but we sell worldwide. Again, it's that trust issue right from the start. And finally, get in touch really, really easy. If you're looking at the Latin American markets, get a WhatsApp number. That's how they correspond there. Get engaging calls to action. The CTAs have to resonate, and then make sure you're talking engaging. If someone makes a comment back. That's also what chatbots are for. It's a great use of AI. And then finally, for me, focus. Don't spread yourself too thin. Just stick to the markets. The last bit is, I think, really just to say, using AI, using your digital presence, and incorporating them into your sales and marketing, your marketing processes, so that anything that happens in your company is resonated into your digital presence. You're going to a trade show, put it on your website, put it on your LinkedIn. You need to launching a new product, put it on your website, put it on your LinkedIn. So making sure that your digital presence and your AI abilities are incorporated and involved into your sales and marketing meetings. I'll leave you with that thought that some of those latest trends there, AI and e-commerce, are top of the line for the latest trends that we're seeing, and we would encourage you to get on board with the AI. And there's lots of ways that you can do that just by training. There's lots of different ways of getting yourself involved and more knowledgeable about the AI world, to try and incorporate it into your daily functions. Just as an anecdote, I think for us as a company, just incorporating some easy AI functionality into our daily business, it certainly saved me about 20% of gain 20% in terms of productivity of my day, just by incorporating Copilot from Microsoft. I'll leave you also with how to connect with the Canadian regional offices across Canada, and Matthew there. And if you want to learn more, we have lots on our website that you can download for free.
And as a bonus, if you'd like to know Canadian companies that are working with these kind of technologies that can help you so you can keep it inside the country and work with folks on your own side, I've got plenty of those. Let me help you. I'm supposed to help with just export, but it doesn't hurt to give people a great bevy of folks that they're working ahead for.
Absolutely.
It really is worth the time to go into it. My always suggestion on anything on export is put as much time, people, and focus on it as you would to going to another province or another city with your sales development. If you don't, you're not treating it correctly and you're not going to get the value out of it and you're not going to see the returns on it that the general company that does focus on that gets.
Absolutely, absolutely. And focus and take the time that's needed of that. I'm gonna the last slide I think has also our contact details, and there you go. And matthew.waldron@international.gc.ca is the one that you want to reach out to for that, for those things. And I'm sorry that Eric could not join us at Half Serious to give his viewpoint, but that would have been a nice Montreal, another Montrealer on that. Okay. I don't know if there are not that many questions out there. There's a few. There's one which I'm not sure I've understood really. It's how would you stop, Matthew? How would you stop request a quote abused by a competitor? I'm
How
not really
would
sure.
I'm trying to find this. The chat's not showing me the question. You said once again, how do we what?
How would you stop request a quote abused by a competitor?
Request a quote. So somebody is just hammering away digitally at your request a quote thing. I would put in easy stuff like CAPTCHA. I'd use things for repetitive development. I mean, there's a lot of web-based security. If you have somebody else running your web development, your forms and everything online, tell them you're having that problem. They'll probably fix it quickly. If it's internal, they need to learn how. It should be something they can do.
Absolutely. And something just very simply, especially if you know the competitor,
Yeah.
excuse me, just blacklist them, and then it's done. Um, if we've understood the question correctly, Francis, could also be, if someone is excuse me, if someone is trying to get information about your product by requesting quotes, again, I would just blacklist them, and then they
Yeah.
can't anymore.
And it's
And
one of
that's
those things where you can find tech that's been aligned to do this. In fact, even the AI based low code things and things of that nature know
yeah,
that hackers love registration forms. They love the request to quote forms as ways to get in. There's 100 different ways to get in that if you're not prepared for and you're using an old template from something way in the past, that you're making yourself vulnerable. And I don't want to turn this into cybersecurity, but it's very important to remember that as you up your technological play level, you have to make sure you bring your security along with it.
very, very strong point, Matthew. Thank you for pointing that out. And indeed, one of the easiest ways, well, there's the two easiest ways for hackers to get in. One is outdated plugins. So if
Right.
your website's not properly managed, then nobody's managing it and updating the plugins all the time. It's endless plugins updating. If there's an out-of-date plugin, that's a window, and that then you will be hacked. If they're out-of-date plugins, you will be hacked. Just a matter of time.
Up to date is job number one.
Job number one. Absolutely. And then, as Matthew pointed out, the registration forms, guest, like where you don't have to create an account, but you sign in as a guest. That's also quite an open window if you've not set it up properly for hackers. That's a one to look at. And as Matthew very rightly said, just get your tech up to speed. Make sure that it's up to speed and solid, and that your webmaster knows what they're doing.
All right.
Okay, I think we've come just to the hour with that. There's quite a lot to talk about cybersecurity, I think, as well, though, Matthew, isn't there?
All right. Whole other topic, cybersecurity for e-commerce.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you all so much for joining us today and for being with us as we talked about e-commerce and AI. We hope we were of help. Get in touch with Matthew. others if you have more questions, and we would love to connect online or in person whenever possible. Take care. Thank you very much, and thank you, Matthew, as always, for your time.
Cheers. Thank you, Susanna. Always great. Bye, folks.
Bye bye. Thank you very much. Bye.